Hey everybody, this is Hondo Carpenter. I am your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on SI and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider podcast. Thank you for joining me again today. So much information that we garnered at the Super Bowl, and so super excited to share this with you. We're going to get into a lot of stuff, including what we learned about the Raiders, but we're also going to have some fascinating NFL draft news. In fact, one, two, three, four, five, six. We're going to talk about six specific players that we know the Raiders are showing interest in. And then we're going to talk about a question many of you have asked me. And so we're going to go ahead and answer that today on what could be the deepest position in this draft. And then we got a lot more. So appreciate you being with us. I'm just so excited to get it out there. Let's get going. We're going to start with what we learned from the Super Bowl. I want to go back to not this Christmas of 2024, but when we saw the Raiders win in Arrowhead with Aiden O'Connell. And remember, I mean, it wasn't like their offense was extremely prolific. That day, though, the Raiders' defense smacked the Chiefs all over the place and were able to come out of there with an upset win. Now, twice this year, the Raiders should have beat them, but they literally just ran out of gas with a completely depleted um, defense. But here is, I think, what you saw. I said all year I did not think that the Chiefs' um, offense was as good as it had been. And I think the Super Bowl bore that out. Additionally, um, I I think their defense was pretty good, but not exceptional. And they ran into a team that built on the lines, could run the football, and had a manageable, good quarterback. Now, I think Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback. I don't think he's even remotely in Patrick Mahomes' league. But Patrick Mahomes couldn't do it on his own. I mean, is there any doubt that Travis Kelce isn't Travis Kelce anymore? I mean, he's gone backwards. The offensive line was not as good. I mean, they're just the receivers. I mean, and I think the fact that Patrick played, even though it's not recognized as one of his best years, I think the fact of the way Patrick played this year got them to the Super Bowl. But it was clearly indicative of the fact that they were beaten by a team that's really how the Raiders now want to do it. They want to build on the lines. They want to build that prolific offense that can pound the football, and they want to be able to get the ball down the field. And what I think you saw was the Raiders aren't as far away from an AFC West crown as you would think, as some would say. It really is definitive to what I've been telling you, that this team is not in need of a rebuild. It is in need of a reload. Are they on the same page as the Philadelphia Eagles? No. No. But they don't run the ball like the Eagles. They have the semblances of a line being built like the Eagles on both sides of the ball. We'll talk about that in a minute. I think they have tremendous weapons aerially, even probably as good as what the Eagles have. But they've got, some defensive weaknesses and stuff they have to plug and fill. But you're seeing that we're talking about winning the AFC West. They're coming. And I think what Pete Carroll is doing now and what John Spytek is doing now and Tom Brady, I think the Raiders, I think if you watch that Super Bowl and you were fair, and I think that's the key part. If you weren't a fan or even a hater, if you were just watching that Super Bowl, and I was there, I think it was very clear to you what you saw. Um, the Raiders are not a team that is that far away. Quick note on Pete Carroll. I addressed it this morning in my audio only podcast that you can find when you go to Spotify or Apple. But I just want to touch it here briefly for a second. But I was talking to a very well respected NFL individual, very well respected NFL individual. And he was talking about Pete Carroll. And he said, if you watch what Pete does, he always gathers a bunch of quarterbacks. But he said with a 3-year deal, he said he told me, I do not, and he's talked to Pete. He said, I don't believe Pete is expecting to only coach there 3 years. He said, but when he went to USC, he had struggled at some previous stops, and he knew he had to get USC off high center quickly. And then when he goes to Seattle, a lot of people thought he would not work out in the pros. They thought he was too gun ho, and they looked at some previous failures in the NFL. And he instantly started to accumulate quarterbacks. This person said to me, I totally can see the Raiders making a trade or signing a free agent, as well as drafting somebody and then going into the season with 3 or 4 quarterbacks. So I thought that was fascinating when he talked to me about knowing Pete Carroll's history and past, and uh, the fact that he thinks Pete's thinking a long term, a lot longer than 3 years, but knows to get that he's going to have to get the Raiders off high center quickly. I thought that was pretty good. All right, I want to turn our attention now. I want to talk about the draft. I'm going to do a podcast later this week answering your questions and emails, many of them, not all. We got so many. But one of the questions I've gotten massive amounts of email on is what position am I hearing is the deepest? And I asked somebody at the Super Bowl who is very intricately involved in the draft. And he told me 2 or 3 positions he thought were very deep, but he said probably the deepest is defensive tackle. And he goes, You're going to get way past the teens and guys that I have starting grades on. These are guys who will be starters in the National Football League. So that's a pretty big deal right there. And he thinks there's going to be a ton of defensive tackles. Just wanted to throw that out there with you. I thought you'd find it interesting. Now, I want to talk about 6 players that I know are getting Raider attention. The first is a running back out of North Carolina, Omarion Hampton. Now, this guy has a lot of really unique skills. I'm going to talk to him at the combine. Um, and he's getting a lot of attention. So during okay, I've got to go back and I need to explain what I mean here. It doesn't really matter what the previous Raider scouts did if it doesn't fit with what Spytek and Carroll and Brady want done. But I know this, the Bucks took a keen interest in Omarion Hampton, and so did the Raiders scouts that they presently have. So because you see it in both places, that would lend me to at least believe, and they believe, this person did, that Omarion Hampton is absolutely on the table. Now, he thinks Omarion is a first round caliber running back. Don't forget Genty also at Boise State, but he thinks this guy has a lot of tools in the tool shed. So I'm going to be doing some more information on him. I'm going to do a lot more scouting on him and Genty also coming up next week. But I just wanted to give you that information, just kind of Omarion Hampton. That's a guy maybe you want to go look some film at, check out a little bit, and just get your eyes on, knowing that the Raiders have, that there's interest there with Omarion Hampton. The next was Will Howard, the quarterback at Ohio State. Now, obviously, the Chip Kelly connection. And so, if you're going to go sign or trade, and then you bring in a rookie with the possibility of development, because Tom Brady thinks rookies need to sit a little bit. Will Howard is a guy that I was told by an NFL executive who is very familiar with the Raiders, doesn't work for the Raiders, but very familiar with the Raiders. He said that Chip Kelly is going to be pounding the table. No, not in anger, but hey, if we're looking at rookies, we better look at Will Howard. I took that information from the Super Bowl and called a member of the Ohio State staff that I'm very good friends with, and I said, "What was Chip Kelly's relationship with Will Howard?" And he said, Chip really liked him. He was older. He, brings him in, and Chip really liked the kid. The kid was a sponge, tons of respect, and really, as the season got on, he just got better and better. And that when the team did struggle, especially sometimes early, that he soaked in all of Chip's coaching, and Chip's a tough coach. So this guy told me, he goes, I know how Chip pounded the table for him. This is the NFL executive. He goes, and I'm hearing that they're certainly doing a lot to check Will Howard out and that there's interest there. So that's another name. I mean, I know that's, but I just thought it would, you would like knowing the angle. The other is Jackson Dart. Now, I shared with you a few weeks ago, before it was a popular opinion, that in talking to NFL people, they had Cam Ward number one, Jackson Dart number two. Nothing's changed now, and I've talked to multiple teams, and that's the process where people are going. I told you before that in talking to NFL people, they felt like there were two, maybe three quarterbacks with a first round grade. They had Cam Ward as the best, Jackson Dart. I think Will Howard has moved in there a little bit, some with Shador, but they think as many as six will go in the first round. That is unfathomable to me. But it's why we talk about teams poorly drafting. And that's why a Brock Bowers falls to the Raiders at 13 last year, is because so many teams poorly draft. But Jackson Dart is, I mean, people, that's what everyone continues to say. He's number two, uh, but making a big push. I don't know of any team that has him ahead of Cam Ward, excuse me, but I do know of several that have him. I mean, the majority of them, I think two told me they had Shador at two, but all the rest told me that it's Jackson Dart. I want to talk about Abdul Carter, defensive lineman out of um sorry about that. Out of Penn State. Now, this is a guy a lot of people believe is the best player in the draft. And you guys know this, we talk about it every year. There are players that are called dudes. Dudes are can't misses. These are the guys. I told you going into the draft last year, there were three guys that universally every NFL team I know had labeled a dude: Brock Bowers, Joe Alt, and Talise Fuaga. The Raiders were able to walk away with a dude at 13, at 13, because of such bad drafting. Now, I've heard a couple of names, but I'm only going to talk about one today: Abdul Carter. Every single NFL team I've asked about, dudes, first name out of everybody's mouth. And then one of them said to me at the Super Bowl, after the Super Bowl, actually, he said, and with what you just saw from Philadelphia, he goes, I would not be shocked if there are really good teams try to move up to one to get Abdul. He goes, I don't think anybody's going to get that one pick. He goes, but that guy is a dude. And along the offensive and defensive lines is where you win championships. It's where you win it. Now, that same NFL executive that told me that about Abdul made a great point, and trust me, he would know. He said that was Tom Brady's superpower. Was Tom Brady obviously wasn't a blocker, but he played quarterback like an offensive lineman. He would come to the line, and he said he would do so many pre-snap reads that it was literally as if he was playing a video game. where he knew everybody was going to go. And he said, if you ever go back and watch film and you'll see him walking up and down the line and he's talking to guys, he's literally telling everybody what's going to happen. And he said uh, that that's the way Tom Brady thinks. That's the way Spy Tech thinks. And that's why they're going to want to build on the lines. So just throwing that out there. That Abdul Carter is a dude. I think you all knew that. But around the NFL, people think his stock even just went higher because of what happened with Philly. Then one other name I want to um, talk about that I know the Raiders are very interested in. And again, they're interested in all six of these guys. But I want to talk about is a wide receiver out of Texas named Matthew Golden. Very fascinating guy here. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I was a little surprised to hear how interested people, because when I would see people, I'd say, hey, what are you hearing on the Raiders? Tell me what are you thinking of? Either from when Spy Tech was with Tampa or Raiders before, or even what are you hearing now? And these are a few of the names. There are a couple more. I'm going to get into another one in a minute. Actually, I forgot to mention. But and this is Matthew Golden. This is a kid that's got phenomenal hands. And he runs really crisp routes. And I was told you put Trey Tucker, who has the deep. You've got Jacoby Myers, who is tremendous possession receiver. You add him along with the DJ Turner, and he said that Raiders wide receiver core is amazing. Now, do I think the Raiders are targeting uh, Matthew Golden? No, but you never know what scenarios with bad drafting. What if nobody's there? Then all of a sudden, if you've got to use six, or what if you can trade? Now, here's another thing I want to throw by you. I had several people tell me that they would not be shocked if the Raiders traded back and picked up additional picks. So imagine picking up, a couple of first rounders, one for this year, one for next, and then an additional second rounder. Remember your second round pick at 6, because so many bad teams draft poorly, really becomes kind of like a late one. So if that's interesting. And if you pick up another second, that's a really big deal. That is a very, very big deal. And these are some things that we're hearing. Now, I want to pull this up. Give me 1 second, if you would, please, because I want to read this. Okay. Gray Zabel is the kid that I told you about. I think he's North Dakota. Yeah, it's North Dakota State. So he tore it up at Senior Bowl. And the Raiders were all over watching him. He's an interior offensive lineman. Um, that is a guy I could see the Raiders, trading back a little bit, picking up, a couple of first rounders, maybe an additional second rounder, but grabbing a Gray Zabel, building on the lines. If you can trade back and then maybe move up, imagine this, and I'm going to throw this out to you. Let's say the Raiders traded back a few spots, grab a Jackson Dart, okay, or a Will Howard, whatever, and then take the 2 second rounders, trade up into the first round, and grab themselves a running back, Jenny or O'Marion Hampton. Bam. Or a Gray Zabel. Then you're addressing quarterback and you're addressing, a running back need or a lineman need. There's just a lot. There's a lot there, an absolute lot there. So those are the things that I'm hearing. That's the stuff that's going on that I want to present to all of you. That's the latest on what's going on, what I'm hearing, what is going around. There's more, but I'm going to continue to work on getting all of that and putting it all together. But some interesting stuff happening right now as the Raiders are going through the self-evaluation, looking at free agency, looking at their guys. And that's the biggest thing right now is, hey, who do we want to re-sign with us? And again, I was told that Robert Spillane is a priority, that Adam Butler would be a priority, but Spillane is a must. There is a ton of teams that are going to come after both of those men. More so Spillane, just because of the nature of the position and how deep defensive tackle is. But there's a lot of interest there, and the Raiders are doing everything concentrated. But remember that piece of information I gave you, that Pete's not talking like a guy with a 3-year deal. He's talking with a guy with a significant longer plan, and he knows he's got to get it off high center quickly if he wants that to happen. So there's some fascinating information. Thank you for joining us today. By the way, I just want to say real quick, thank you for going to si.com/NFL/Raiders for reading, watching. I mean, we're doing 15 to 20 stories a day, 100% free content, pounding it out for you. And appreciate all of you for reading, listening, watching, and all of it. Thank you so much. God bless you all. Have a great day.